Welcome to the Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night. This is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania. Amateur radio is a worldwide hobby that has many different aspects. Digital television is just one of the many modes and areas that are covered. Maybe you're interested in becoming involved in the DATV Experimenters Nights. You realise that you do not have to be a radio amateur or need any ATV equipment to participate anywhere in the world. Also participate in the night by coming up to the Queen's Domain club rooms. Yes, right on top of the Queen's Domain in the heritage-listed Coast Wireless Station. You never know, we might get you in front of the camera or behind doing one of the many roles during the night. We get underway with our program on a Wednesday night from 7:30 p.m. local time. We'll see you soon. This is VK7 OTC.
Okay, this is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Night. And I welcome Rex Moncur, VK7MO, into the studio. Hello, Rex.
Thank you, Justin.
How you going?
I'm good, yes.
And how's the preparation for Hawaii going?
Every day I do something more and think of something else I should do.
Okay. So that list is very long.
Well, the different things get added all the time.
Okay.
As you probably noticed outside.
There's some very interesting jigs outside.
Yes.
For 9700 and a laptop. So very
Yes.
interesting. Yes. Now, but the reason I asked Rex into the studio is last weekend on Saturday we had the WIA Hybrid AGM and Open Forum up here in the club rooms behind us, and then we all went down to IMAS at UTAS, or the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Studies, down on the wharf for a presentation which was the virtual conference. So we had the theme was the Antarctic Gateway, and we had about, I think it was between 40 and 50 people online, so they were watching it online, including Warren, who may be watching tonight. So if you are watching tonight, Warren, give us a hoy on the chat. So he was watching from Antarctica, but there were people watching from all over Australia as well. And there were 4 presentations. The very first one, which was by Professor Elle Leane, that's why I've asked Rex into the studio, which was all about Sydney Jeffrey. There was then, Rex gave a presentation on his time as director. Then there was Dr. Andrew Klekachuk about the atmospheric research that was going on, and then we finished off with Peter Yates and Kim Briggs, which was all about communication and the challenges of communication in Antarctica. So we got lots and lots of good comments, so it was really good. But what struck a chord with me, Rex, was you made a comment that actually, I think in the presentation, at the end of the presentation, that you were really taken by the presentation by Ellie.
So, I was, yeah. Okay, well, I'll sort of have to repeat a little bit of Ellie's presentation, so
yep.
This is all in context. Ellie's a professor of English, and she gave a talk about the Mawson expedition, and in particular about the second radio operator on Mawson's expedition. Now, the first radio operator was a guy named Walter Hannam, who in fact was the first secretary of the WIA, and he wasn't that successful, and Ellie's research sort of implied that he didn't do a very good job of running his radio station. I have a somewhat different view, because here he was in 1912 going all the way to Antarctica with some equipment that was
may or may not have been tested.
And certainly, you know, in those days any sort of radio contact was a random result.
Yep.
And he'd been asked to set this up. Now, Ali started talking about using the word crystal, and I'm pretty sure that was really talking about a galena crystal.
Yep, and a cat's whisker.
And a cat's whisker.
Yep.
And if you think about this, here's poor old Walter Hannam, who's gone all this way. He doesn't know whether his antennas are working, his gear's working. There's a relay station at Macquarie Island. They don't know much about the ionosphere and so forth. And he's fiddling around with his cat's whisker. Now, we've all made crystal sets with galena and cat's whiskers, but when we make them, we listen to a broadcast station and we fiddle around until we get the right spot.
Can I just say, kilowatts of broadcast station.
That's right.
Usually close by.
Yeah, close by. Now, you imagine this situation where, for some reason or other, the station's very weak, you don't know about the propagation, and you're fiddling around trying to find the right spot on your cat's whisker
on the crystal, well, truly.
With nothing to listen to.
Yeah,
and
no reference, no nothing.
And so I have a bit of sympathy with Walter Hannam.
Yep.
However, the way the Mawson expedition worked is Mawson went off with two of his colleagues to explore to the east, and unfortunately two of his colleagues went down crevasses, and he got back late after the recovery ship, Aurora, had already left.
Yep. Hours earlier.
Yes.
Hours earlier.
Now, they did have communication with it, but the ship decided that there was too much ice and too risky to come back.
Turn around, yep.
And they also had to get the westerly group from Wild's station, so it meant everybody had to stay another year. Now, at this stage, Walter Hannam had decided he didn't want to stay another year, and they had a radio mechanic, I think they called him, who was a combination of
an operator and
a fixer, and
correct.
And like a ham.
Yeah, correct.
And this guy's name was Jeffries, and Ellie described some of the things that she's been able to dig out about poor Jeffries. And turns out that Mawson returned a few days later after Jeffries was ensconced, and Jeffries didn't get on with and there was, I think, 3 or 4 other people who'd stayed over to run the station until, in the hope that Mawson got back. They must have really thought it was not much chance.
And they're there for another winter.
Winter, hoping to survive. And Jeffries joins this group and doesn't get on with any of them. And at one stage, and he did things like he had so-called good crystals and he would hide them away so nobody else could use them. Well, my thought is, yes, they were little pieces of galena, and maybe he had a skill of knowing just where on the piece of galena he got the best signal.
He was a radio mechanic.
Yeah, and so I thought this was pretty interesting, but because he didn't get on with people and he wanted to keep the communication to himself, he'd hide the crystals, which implies that the others thought they at least knew how to listen. To operate. Or,
Yep.
I mean, I guess if you're down there for 12 months, you listen to what everybody's doing.
And you're all in a pretty enclosed
space.
space.
And you think you know what.
Well, and Ellie made the comment that they moved the transmitter and everything into the hut, so into the actual hut. So,
well, I think that would help in the sense that the operators would be warm and
the equipment would be warm as well.
And
so
you could spend more time.
And when Jeffries was operating, it was more of a success than Hannum.
Absolutely.
From a radio point of view. Now, what that could be, who knows? But
well, my view. I mean, there was talk about whether it was environmental, like the peak of the sunspot cycle. My memory is that LF isn't influenced by
less so.
Yeah,
less so. It's more influenced by energy events. So coronal mass ejections and all of that sort of stuff
that will destroy it.
But they're only short-term effects anyway.
So I don't think it was that. I think it's simply, as all of us hams would agree, every time you go portable, things don't always work, and you have to go to portable many times before you realise all the things you've got to get right.
And all the spares you've got to take with you.
and so forth. So I have great sympathy with Hannum, and I don't necessarily think he was any worse operator than Jeffries.
Yeah.
But Ellie's research suggested that he at least got things working, and okay, that's a plus.
Yeah.
However, because he did things like hide his crystals and didn't tell people what messages he was sending, and it seemed to me, from what Ellie said, it was generally just one-way communication. That, we have this principle even with WSJT of always saying roger, 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 and confirming that you've got two-way communication. And Mawson was very suspicious, according to Ellie, that he was sending messages back that were getting into the press and saying bad things about his expedition. And this was important to him because he had financed it all on the basis...
Privately.
Of income from, I know, for instance, Mix Robinson's Chocolates provided all the chocolates and things like that. But more importantly, the newspapers were paying him for the stories when he got back.
Yep.
And he didn't want the whole thing tainted.
Yep.
And whether Jeffries was transmitting bad messages or not, it wasn't clear.
Well, Ellie made a comment about that because she said it was thought that those messages were getting through to Macquarie Island, but they weren't.
No.
She actually made that comment because Macquarie had no record of strange messages coming. Like, they were oblivious to what was going on at Commonwealth Bay. And I just sort of went, that's interesting. The whole conditions things may have actually worked to, shield Jeffries from the worst of it. But anyway,
well, we don't know what Jeffries transmitted. Now, poor old Jeffries, by the October, now normally you wouldn't get a ship down back to Commonwealth Bay until about January.
Okay.
So a couple of months before the ship's due to arrive, and I'd never heard of this before, Mawson formally dismissed this poor guy
And she showed the
and had
letter.
a typed up letter, which
Yeah.
presumably Mawson
full page typed up letter.
and signed it, dismissing him. Well, I don't know what the effect of dismissing somebody who you still desperately need for communication.
Correct. And you can't wander outside terribly often or whatever else. It's just like you still got to work with the people that are in the building.
So anyway, poor Jeffries. I got the impression that Ali had a lot of sympathy for Jeffries.
Yep.
Jeffries came back on the boat and finished up in Adelaide, and he'd apparently got some messages back to his sister, who was convinced that
In Toowoomba.
in Queensland,
Yeah.
that he wasn't in a good shape and he needed someone to look after him. And she wrote to, I don't know why she had to write through Mawson, but maybe that was the only contact,
Okay.
and said, wait till I get there and I'll get on the train and bring him home.
Yeah.
Well, Mawson apparently put him straight on the train, and when they got to Ararat, he got off the train and was found dehydrated, wandering
Disappeared into the bush.
bush. And poor old Jeffries was then put into an asylum and died there, I think it was 29 years later.
Yeah.
Uh,
In a maximum security area of the asylum, which...
Yeah, and he got essentially no recognition whatsoever, but later, just a few years ago, his grave has been marked with a plaque on his role in this expedition. And I thought this was a pretty fascinating story, that an English professor has been able to dig up about a radio operator.
He's got very, very little recognition for
Yes.
the role he played. Almost
now,
has been erased from history.
Yeah.
So-
Now, Ellie's put all her work, or given her work to a professional psychologist who's analysed poor Jeffries and decided he was paranoid schizophrenic.
Which wasn't a diagnosis in those days.
No. So this sort of explains some of what actually happened. Now, I merely say this is a very interesting dimension to Mawson's expedition that I was not aware of.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because I know, I went through, I did first year uni at Adelaide.
Right.
So, of course, Mawson figures largely in the Adelaide University, because we were always, all our lectures were in the Mawson Lecture Theatre.
And his archives are all there.
Well and truly.
Which is presumably where that letter came from.
Well and truly. So yeah, figures hugely, and I suspect Jeffries probably was almost erased out of it because it didn't fit any of the, the heroic stereotypes or all of that sort of stuff. So anyway, that's interesting stuff.
I mean, one of the others on the party was Madigan.
Yeah.
And Madigan's...
That's the other lecture theatre.
Madigan's
because he's Adelaide
son became the chairman of one of the big mining companies, I think.
Yeah.
Not
It was
sure
Cecil Madigan was the one that was on the expedition. And his son went on to become a mining magnate, I think.
Yes.
It was very well known name in Adelaide.
And he was Sir Russell Madigan.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, okay.
Oh no, fantastic! That's great, Rex. And your impression of the other talks, they sort of fitted together into a
pattern. Yes, yes. There was Andrew's talk about UAP and all the stuff that's being done there.
Okay.
And Peter and well, Peter's talk was primarily, Peter Yates was about communications and how that developed over the years to the satellite systems. And then Kim Briggs gave some interesting examples of the marine science voyages and
well and truly.
So
and in fact, we're probably going to get Kim back in to do a little bit of a talk on Antarctic electronics, like making things so that they will survive in Antarctica.
Well, survive with 4,000 metres down where the pressure is so great that
it would crush most things.
That's right.
And I didn't realise that those connectors, those actual connectors,
have to withstand all this pressure.
Well, but they actually use the pressure to do the sealing.
That's right.
So the more pressure there is, the better the seal is. I think that's a little bit of trying to think about the problem in a reverse way. So anyway.
Well, the device that goes onto it, which is called a CTD, conductivity, temperature, and depth, is and conductivity indirectly measures the salt content.
The salinity.
And it goes down with a whole lot of bottles which are triggered at different depths, and it also electronically measures conductivity and depth. Those devices cost about $80,000 each, and on one of the voyages that occurred when I was first there, we lost the CSIRO's one.
What, the cable broke or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Whoops. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So there's a CTD at the bottom of the ocean somewhere.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
that's fantastic. Thank you, Rex.
No worries.
And good luck with your continued preparation for Hawaii.
Thank you.
We look forward to the next episode. So good stuff.
Okay.
All right.
See ya.
Thanks, Rex. All right, this is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Night. And hello to Anthony, VK7AG, who's online. And if you are online, please let us know where you're coming in from, and ask any questions that you've got, and we will attempt to answer them. So yeah. Now. I just want to do a quick update. The 160 metre vertical, short vertical, that I've been featuring the last two DATV nights. This is just a quick reminder. This is Drew Diamond VK3XU X-ray uniform. It's designed from one of his great homebrew books. There's a 4-volume set of homebrew projects that Drew puts out. They are still available from I think that from the WIA and a few of the reputable amateur radio bookshops. They are a fantastic. If you're into homebrew, please take a look. In fact, what I might do in a future ATV night, I'll bring those 4 volumes in and give you a bit of a look at them. Because the one thing I can say is I've built 3 or 4 things out of Drew Diamond's books, and every one of them works exactly the way that Drew describes them working. So it is absolutely fantastic. So this short, and we're talking about 6 metres in length. This short vertical 160 metre. It's got a top loading coil. That's 118 microhenries. It's about 90 mil in diameter and about 300 mil in length. There's a big coil on the top, and then there is a capacitive top hat to balance that inductive reactance. And the capacitive top hat is 3 lines connected to the top of the antenna. That go out about 1 metre, and then there's an insulator, and then there is 3 guy ropes that you use to hold the antenna up. So and you tune the antenna using those capacitive lengths. You shorten them or lengthen them to get the frequency where you actually want it to do. It's fairly sharp. fairly sharp antenna, so I've got it tuned to 1.860 megahertz. It gives me 1-to-1, so really really sharp antenna. However, you can through those varying the length of those capacitive hat actually tune it to whatever frequency you actually want. So doing really well. I did some FT8 and some Whisper. It is on Whisper right at the moment. So if you've got 160 meter Whisper capability, put out a signal, and I hope I can receive it and then add it to the Whisper database. I've received signals from VK1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. There's some FT8 that I've certainly done with ZL. I have attempted, there was a WIA AR on a couple of nights ago. Reasonably strong signal, middle of the Whisper range, but couldn't go back to him. I turned all the way up to 100 watts, and antenna was fine with that, but I could not raise YE1AR. But I certainly heard him and decoded him quite a few times. So YE1, ZL, and VK3 and the other states I've made contact with. So that's the 160 meter vertical. I have also used it to do the 160 meter broadcast a couple of times, and had some good reports locally on a Sunday morning. Given the DE layer change during the day and the night is certainly the optimal time to be doing 160 meters. So there you go. Now I have a new segment, that I thought I would start tonight. I don't know whether too many people know, but I collect Morse keys. Morse code keys, all sorts of different ones. I've probably got about, 50 or 60 of them at this point in time, and there are some very interesting ones in the collection. And the one that I chose tonight is to do with. Let me go to the close-up camera, and we'll zoom in here a little bit. In fact, what I might do is go this way. Now, if people know their Morse keys, they will realise that this is what they call a bathtub key. And you can see why it's called a bathtub key. It looks very much like a bathtub. This is Bakelite, brown Bakelite. The Canadian version, I think, was in black Bakelite. But the brown one is the English/Australian one, and you can see there are a couple of terminals on the top. You unscrew these, you put your actually the other one I've got here. I've got a couple of these. I've actually got 3 of these. You can see these are the connections that go in here. These are the screw terminals that go in here, and then there is the little the skirt around the key, and then the key. You can see I have to say, all of the reports I have read about using these keys is the primary report is it's a really heavy key to use, and there is a particular little V-shaped spring arrangement in here that I'll show you in a minute that makes it fairly heavy to use. Bear in mind, one of the main aircraft that these were used in was the Lancaster bomber. They were also used in the Halifax, the Stirling and the Wellington bombers, and they are considered to be, and the design was specifically made up so that they were enclosed keys, so you couldn't have an exposed spark. In an aircraft, they were worried about the fact that if you had gas or fumes and there was a spark, you could potentially have an explosion. And on some of the transmitters, also the voltage that was actually switched on the key was quite high, and so you wanted the insulated key so that you weren't going to be electrocuted. Although in operating these keys on aircraft, you would have had fairly large gloves on to operate the keys, so they needed to be fairly robust and able to be operated with gloves on. Now there's a very interesting little design here. This little spring clip, which you can see here, we can open it up, and you can definitely see the bathtub arrangement here. That's the 4 mounting screws, and you can see this is mounted on a mechanism for that's obviously mounted on a transmitter or a desk. This is the inside. You can see there are a couple of springs here that you can adjust the tension of the key. Now, the key, one of the things here which is a bit hard to show, you can see, yeah, there is the remnants. What there would normally be in here is a little leather gasket that goes in here, which basically protects the outside of the key to the inside of the key. So if there's any sparks going on in this section, it doesn't actually get out to the outside world. So the gas can't get in and then ignite within the bathtub key. Now, of all 3 of these keys that I've got, the little leather gasket that goes in here, the little leather bellows, if you like, in here, they've all perished. They're all of them have perished. So I can't actually show you the gasket that goes in here, but that goes on and then it clips up. Now, this little clip also provides another function, because if you push this clip forward, what it does is push the key down and permanently puts the key on. And I think that what I've read is the thought is if the plane was coming in for a crash landing or whatever else, the radio operator could push this forward, and then it would be constantly transmitting CW, so a straight tone, and you could then use that tone to do some direction finding for the aircraft. I have to say, so could the enemy to find the aircraft. So I'm not sure whether that's such a good little feature, but that's the feature. If you push that forward, it actually pushes the key on, and you could then, the radio operator and whatever the pilot and the crew could put their could jump out with their parachute on and hopefully survive the crash landing. So anyway, that's the bathtub key. It was used. There was used in Australian bombers as well. So it's not only the RAAF, but probably best known for its role in the Lancaster bomber. Now, what I thought I would do now is we have. I showed a few. Examples of Winnie the War winner a little while ago at the Australian War Memorial. Now, there are lots and lots of displays at the War Memorial, and one of them, which is a very impressive display, is what they call, and it's in one of the really big halls, this is a Lancaster bomber, and the Lancaster is called G for George. That was its call sign. It was G in the call sign for the vehicle, for the aircraft, and this is a real aircraft. I'll show. There's some very impressive statistics for this particular aircraft. It ran many sorties, and the key thing here is it survived. It is intact. The crew survived, etc. And there are some pretty shocking statistics, which I'll show you in a sec, in relation to Bomber Command in World War II. I'll just flick through these. There's some big screens behind the Lancaster bomber that, and every so often, every half an hour or so, I think there's a presentation about Bomber Command in World War II. It's a little dramatised movie that it goes through, and you can watch this standing next to this Lancaster bomber, which is pretty impressive. You can see here I took a variety of shots. That's the presentation going on in the background. You can see the rear gunner up here, the bomb aimer down here. There's a shot I've got a bit later with the bomb aimer, down here, that sits in here and aims when to tells the pilot when to drop the bombs. We'll scroll through. Oh, these are pretty dark, aren't they? You can see the screens in the background. They're telling the story of, and you can see here, this is a bombing run over Germany. Everything is on fire on the ground, and you know, a day in the life of Bomber Command and being on one of these Lancaster bombers. Just phenomenal stories. Now, the interesting thing here is I took this photo. Now, total air crews in Bomber Command is something like about 185,000. So there's 185,000 people in Bomber Command, and the total air crew killed in Bomber Command is something in the order of about 50, I think it's 85,000 or 85,700. So 86,000 people ended up losing their life, which 86,000 in 185,000 is a phenomenal loss rate. Just scary amounts of people lost their lives in Bomber Command. This was interesting. The number of Australians in Bomber Command was about 10,000, and the number of Australians killed in Bomber Command, and I think that is 3,000, about 3,500 people. So 35% of Australians in Bomber Command of the 10,000 lost their lives, which is just scary. Here we go. This is the side of G for George, and this is the number of sorties, so the number of the bombs that they dropped and survived. So this aircraft's pretty unique because it actually survived all of this, these bombing runs, and was not shot down. Now, this is, I think from memory, and I think my memory serves me correctly here, this is called a 1,000-pound bomb. So this is one of the main bombs that they dropped. Huge bomb, very destructive. You can see it sits underneath. Oh, there's a Messerschmitt just next to it, up on a big pole. So that's the sort of things, that's the sort of aircraft that would have been trying to attack the Lancaster. This is what the aircrew wore. Now this is the wireless operator. Now I did show a few of these the other day. I tried to. It's very hard to get a photo of because it's actually inside. But if you scroll in here, you'll notice there is a bathtub key. So it showed the Lancaster bombers. They were best known for their bathtub keys, and that's the radio operator with the transmitter and the receiver in the wireless operator's position on the Lancaster bomber. Now this is the Lancaster bomber. You can see there's the bomb aimer down here sitting underneath the pilot, and then there's sitting behind him the navigator and the flight engineer, and then behind him the wireless operator, and then at the back here you've got the mid upper gunner and then the rear gunner, the rear gunner was not really the place to be when you had Messerschmitts flying around trying to shoot you down. That was the rear gunner was really sitting duck. And this is part of the presentation. The wireless operator assists navigation and looks after communications. Using Morse code, he sends reports of wind readings, courses, and timing. and you can see that was actually shot where a real wireless operator was operating within the aircraft, and you can see the presentation that goes through here. So, but if you're ever in Canberra and you're at the National War Memorial, here's the bomb aimer at the front, lies down and make sure that when they drop the bomb, they're dropping it on the right targets. And that's the 1,000-pound bomb in the bomb bay, and you can see that's the release mechanism for that particular bomb. Arm the bomb and then drop it. So there you go. But anyway, I thought I'd just share that with you. That's but if you're ever in Canberra, please don't forget to go to the Australian War Memorial and have a look at the presentations that are there, and that's the G for George presentation at the War Memorial, and it's you can see one of these bathtub keys on the Lancaster bomber, and there's probably many of these keys in their archives. So that's the story of a fairly unique key called the bathtub key, made out of Bakelite, and in Lancaster and Halifax and Stirling and Wellington bombers. So there you go. One of the prides of my my Morse key collection. So there you go. Now I'll just grab. There is another picture I just wanted to show you. I showed the VK5JST SWR meter, SWR and power meter, and you might remember it's got the Stockton bridge that you connect the antenna and the transmitter to, and then it goes off to an LCD screen. There's a little pic on here, and it shows you the power SWR, the power, forward power, the reverse power, and then calculates the SWR from it. I did a bit of a comparison on the 160 meter antenna to see how accurate the power meter actually is. And this is the power meter that I just showed you, and you can see we've got SWR 1:1. Forward power is 110 watts and reverse power is 0. At 1:1, I would expect that. Now I've got a little ATU-100 sitting next to it that's got a little OLED display on it that gives you these figures, and you can see the power is measured. It's saying it's 109 watts, and the SWR is 1.14. Efficiency is 72%. So it gives you a few more calculations here. But the 1:1 and 110 watts at 109 and 1.14, I love it. Very happy with that. I didn't have to do very much in the way of setup on here at all. So very impressed with the VK5JST Adelaide Hills kit, SWR and power meter. Now it featured in a recent AR magazine, so you can have a look at that and see. But very impressed. That's down at 160 meters. I'll work my way through the HF bands all the way up to 6 meters and see how we go, and see if there's any issues with the calibration on the particular meter. But anyway, that's the VK5JST SWR and power meter. Very impressed indeed. Now, we had our Reast committee meeting last night, and a very full agenda. But one of the things that got a bit of a go is one of the events that's coming up is the fox hunt. Fox hunts. We're organising a whole lot of fox hunts, probably both yes and no fox hunts, but also direction finding fox hunts, where we'll employ our tape measure Yagis, or do a bit of a construction of tape measure Yagis, and then we'll go out and we're organising prizes and all sorts of things. So we'll press into service our little micro fox little 2-metre transmitter in a film container, 35mm film container, and we'll hide that somewhere and see whether someone can't find it with their direction finding antennas. So stay tuned. Now the other thing, on the 25th of May, at the end of this month, we have Peter Parker VK3YE coming down to Tasmania, and he's agreed to give us a presentation on 6 ways to make contacts, QRP contacts I assume. So he's coming down to give us a bit of a talk, and Phil Groom, hello Phil, waiting on his call sign. Welcome to the ATV nights. And Anthony, just a comment, I went to Canberra just to see the memorial and spent 2 days there. Yes, I certainly agree, Anthony. We spent a day there, and we walked out and we were walking back to our hotel, and I said to my wife, I think we missed World War II. So we went back a day later and went through the World War II exhibition. So that was a little bit embarrassing, wasn't it? But anyway, there is a lot to see. So don't expect to see it really quickly. So now we've got Barney Barnett. Hello, friends at Reast. Recently passed my exam. Soon to apply for a station license. Fantastic. Very good. Good stuff. Another amateur on the air. Always a good thing. So thanks for calling in, Barney. Definitely, and congratulations. Good stuff. So Peter Parker, 25th of May, up here, 7:30 p.m. We will be streaming it. If you can watch from home. So yeah, that's our presentation for tonight. Next week we'll have a myriad of other things. So please stay tuned. Same time, same bat channel, and we will be streaming it. And it's also going out on DVB-T. If you can see the Queen's Domain, then you've got half a chance of receiving it. It's only low power. But DVB-T 446.5 megahertz, 7 megahertz bandwidth, and it's a standard definition DVB-T, so a normal television signal. Now I'll just say most televisions probably can't tune it because they skip this bit of the band, because they don't expect there to be a DVB-T signal in it. But if you've got one of those DTV dongles, the little USB dongles, they work a treat, absolute treat. And you can put in 445.5 and magically scan, and you can get a signal. So there you go. Anyway, next time, we'll have our next program. And this is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our DATV Experimenters Nights. And we'll catch you next week from 7:30. This is VK7TW for VK7OTC, saying 73.